Hello children and welcome to the session today. Children, we have understood the importance of plants in our lives. We've also understood how plants and animals are dependent on each other. Now in today's session, we are going to return to what is the home of plants and animals. We are going to talk about chapter 18, Forests, Our Natural Wealth. So children, any area in which there is a huge number of plants and trees, there is a huge diversity, types of animals who are dwelling in that place is known as a forest. A forest has many different types of species of animals living. So a forest basically has got plants, it has got animals living in it, and it has also got different types of fungi and algae growing on it. So we've seen mushrooms also growing in these areas. We've got lichens growing in these areas, which is a combination of fungi and algae. And in addition, there are many small microscopic animals which are known as microbes. And let us not forget that forests are also home to many tribal communities, not only in India but many places around the world. So how do you understand what a forest is? Let us watch a video to do the same. Forests cover about 1/3 of the Earth's land surface. A large area of land that is covered with different kinds of trees, shrubs, herbs and grasses is called a forest. The uppermost branches of tall trees in a forest act like a roof in the forest and is called a canopy. The branches of tall trees overlap, forming a continuous cover of dense leaves. Birds, bats, monkeys live here. Below the canopy is the understory. It is a part of the tree above the stem. It includes large leaved plants and small trees that can survive in less sunlight. Insects, snakes, lizards, birds, pythons and leopards live here. The forest floor that receives very little sunlight consists of leafless plants like mosses and lichens. Forest floor is also covered with dead and decaying plants, worms, seeds, etc. Insects, ants, beetles, lions, bears and tigers live here. So the floor of the forest will contain all the dead leaves, the dead animals. So the floor of the forest is going to be so nourishing. It is going to be so life-giving. That is what makes forest a wealth. So forests are the biggest sink of carbon dioxide. Now what do you understand by sink of carbon dioxide? So we know that the basic process of photosynthesis involves the absorption of carbon dioxide by the leaves and giving out of oxygen in the presence of sunlight. So what is happening in the forest? There are loads of trees, loads of leaves, loads of carbon dioxide is being absorbed and oxygen is being released. So what is happening here? The carbon dioxide is being removed from the environment. Besides this, they also help in a lot of rainfall. How? We know that leaves also give out water vapor in the process of photosynthesis. This water vapor comes out from the leaves through stomata and it is added to the air. What is happening here? A lot of transpiration. And because of this lot of transpiration, what is happening? Humidity is rising. More and more rainfall. This rainfall also seeps down into the ground and it adds a lot of groundwater to it. So, one, forests are a carbon sink. The forest floor has got very rich soil. Third, the forest also help in increasing the rainfall. That is the reason forests are so important. And of course, they are home to many animals and plants. Now, these animals and plants are interdependent on each other. So, we know that birds are important for pollination, as we have done in the chapter of reproduction on plants. And we also know that without plants, animals cannot survive. So, there is a mutual arrangement between plants and animals. And these plants and animals make up the biotic components of the forest. We know that the biotic components of the forests can be divided into two. So there are the producers. There are only one kind of producers on earth, which are plants, and then there are consumers. And these consumers, we are aware, are of these kinds. There are grass-eating animals called herbivores, flesh-eating animals called carnivores, omnivores which can eat both plants and animals, and there are scavengers which feed on dead, decaying animal bodies. Then whatever is left by the scavengers on the floor of the forest, these are digested by microbes which are known as decomposers. So children, what is happening here? A producer is eaten by a herbivore is eaten by a carnivore. When the carnivore dies, the dead body is cleaned by the scavengers, and whatever is left is decomposed by the decomposer. So what is happening here? A food chain is being formed. Let us understand more about the food chain. The process of eating and being eaten forms a chain called the food chain. Many food chains occur in nature. All food chains begin with green plants or producers. There is a flow of energy from one level to another in a food chain. If any member of a food chain is affected, the entire food chain gets affected. Several food chains are interconnected to form a food web. So many interconnected food chains are called food web. And in these food chains or food web, what is happening? The flow of energy is taking place from one level to another, right? And this flow of energy maintains life on earth. If any one organism is removed, so for example, in this food chain, if I remove the fox, the number of rabbits are going to increase. If here I remove the owl and the hawk, the number of mice is going to increase. So what is required in nature? Balance is required in nature. When we leave nature alone, it can balance itself on its own. But when we begin to interfere, this balance is disturbed. Now, what do we have to do? We have to make sure that we cause conservation of forest now. We extend our effort in preserving the forest together. Now, due to deforestation in the recent years, what has happened? The amount of forests has reduced. This forest land is either used for industry or it is used for building dams, for growing crops, or for housing the increasing population of human beings. So what is happening? The forest cover is declining. With declining forest cover, what are the two things that are going to be impacted? Number one, carbon dioxide is going to increase. Number two, rainfall is going to reduce. And when these two things will happen, what are they going to lead to? They are going to lead to global warming. So that is the children why we need to preserve forest. There are many different ways of preserving forest. The first one is agroforestry. What is agroforestry? Along with the main crops, the trees are also planted, right? So the amount of carbon dioxide reduces, rainfall increases, soil fertility is maintained because we know that roots of the plants hold the soil, prevent soil erosion. That is why agroforestry. The second is sustainable harvesting. That means if you are removing trees, you are also planting more trees at the same time. Then prevention of fire in the forest, because fire in the forest spreads very rapidly. And how do you save it? You save it by controlling human activity like lighting of matchsticks, lighting of bonfires inside the forest. Then preventing the growth of parasitic animals like Cascuta inside the forest. And then the tribal people who are living in forest must check the amount of grazing that is done by their pet animals. So children, in this chapter we have understood the different areas inside a forest. We have learned why forest is a wealth. We have also learned how we need to conserve forest. So it is time for you to test your knowledge through answering the questions at the back. Thank you.